sensitive because we need to
All
ensure
right.
that these positions get fitted and filled up. So
So, how do you resolve these time-related challenges that you usually face while extending support? What are
a lot
your
of the times
strategies?
I put deadlines on everybody, and then I really follow up on the recruiters because on our end, if they make a mistake, um,
Yeah.
it could be very timely and costly. So I just
Okay.
ensure that they make sure that they're doing their job properly. Because if they're not doing their job properly, like providing us with the correct information
Yeah.
or even their location or anything like that, that could
Yeah.
be a big ordeal because they're not able to, for instance, if they misspelled their name incorrectly, people aren't able to submit their drug test or to make
Yeah.
sure that they're the right people, or even just as simple as making sure that they have their licenses or some type
Yeah.
of degree. So that throws everything off. So yeah. So right now I'm
Case.
making sure I follow up with the recruiting, making sure that their process. I'm trying to find a more efficient way that they can do their
Yeah.
processes a lot faster.
Okay. That's. Have you come up with a rough plan or something, or are you like still in the
I'm
initial
still working
brainstorming?
that with them to see how
Yeah.
they're doing everything.
Yeah.
And if anything, I'm probably gonna implement something in the HRS system where it's
Okay.
the actual employee that's
Yeah.
putting in their information versus somebody in data entry typing in everything in. So
Yeah.
that way it does not fall back on us and does not make us look bad. And if
Yeah.
we do have pushback, it's because the actual employee is the one that made the mistake and not our employee. So, because a
Yeah.
lot of it is just people putting the blame on somebody else. But if the
Yeah.
candidate's going to put their information correctly, then there's going to be, or correctly, then there's going to be most likely less mistakes versus somebody just trying to think they know what it is. Like, for instance, the spelling of a simple name.
Yeah. I understand that. So, have like while conducting these background checks, have you ever faced a situation where you received information that was very critical, and you had to act on it quickly, and just because you were very prompt in your action, it
Uh,
resulted
yeah.
in
So
you. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
depending on
Please go
like
ahead.
the severity of it,
Yeah.
we leave it open up to interpretation because a lot of the
Yeah.
times people just were at the wrong time at the wrong place.
Yeah.
So we go ahead and clear it up with them, and then most of I mean, if it's a misdemeanor or something like that, we usually don't
Okay.
follow through.
Yeah.
So
All right. Like, because this can actually translate into big savings for the organization in terms of a wrong
correct.
recruitment.
Yes,
Yeah.
I
So
totally
that
agree
yeah,
with you.
yeah. So probably that's why I was like sort of emphasizing on a specific example because that would just shed some light on you saving the company some major um, bucks by being very prompt in your action.
Yeah, if like depending like I said, we don't necessarily look into exactly what happens. I mean,
Yeah,
if they want to explain it to us, that is
yeah,
fine.
fine. Yeah,
Um, but as far as if they have multiple misdemeanors, then that's
yeah,
a red flag right there.
yeah.
But if it's
Okay.
a certain case like because we've seen even like a DUI or something like that. So that's
Yeah,
something that depending on what the position is.
yeah,
Obviously, if it's like an EMT driver, then
yeah,
we don't go ahead
yeah,
with
yeah,
that.
obviously. Yeah.
Yeah. So otherwise,
Okay.
if it's something that's small, then we just go ahead and let it pass. Because I mean, people are gonna make mistakes no matter what you know what I mean.
Yeah,
So,
I understand. Can you share an estimated figure for the average amount spent on a company employee? Just to give us a ballpark figure. Okay.
I for onboarding somebody,
Yeah, for
I
onboarding.
would typically, depending on if there's training need to be done, I could cost anywhere from I would say 200 to I would almost about $1,500 that I've seen that it costs to
Okay.
onboard somebody, and like depending on like if we need to relocate that person or anything like that, we pay the expenses and stuff.
Yeah.
So it could be a lot higher than that actually. But as far as
Okay.
I've been there, it hasn't been that much. No.
All right. All right. So we can like share an estimated amount in order to lend more credibility to this bullet point that we just discussed. Would that be okay with you?
Yeah, that's
Like for
fine.
example, say yeah. All right. You also mentioned that you provide and advise employees and managers with information about HR policies. So, um, like how
Correct.
effective have these sessions been in reducing the HR policies related
It
queries? Like
It's been very effective, I would say. More people are accepting of it. Basically, like I
yeah,
said, people just need it to be broken down because when people use, depending like the literature, not the literature, but the writing or how it's written or anything like that, it could be
yeah,
misinterpreted. So
yeah.
people have been reaching out more to me and have had a positive effect on that. So I
Okay.
mean, it's causing a better working environment overall.
But do you have some available numbers to sort of support this? Like, for example, the queries coming on a daily basis. For example, previously at such and such a number, but now they've reduced to such and such number. Like, is
No, I
this
don't have anything like that.
like
No.
that? Okay, all right. But you do feel that they have reduced the number.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Like, and for this purpose, that you like while you're providing information about HR policies, is that a session? Is that a workshop, or is that on a day-to-day basis
Oh, that's
via
just a
emails and
day-to-day
calls?
basis. Yeah, that's a
Okay.
day-to-day basis.
Oh, all right. So the next bullet, you say that you process a variety of HR transactions in the HRIS system. How do you ensure data accuracy and integrity while processing these transactions and new hire and termination information? How do you ensure data accuracy, basically?
Honestly, I just basically just double check all the information, making sure that I follow up with, um,
Yeah,
depending on what it is, like the manager terminating somebody, I want to make sure that they're terminated and make sure that we put the right reasons. I
yeah.
just do a lot of follow-ups and a cross-reference with like the emails that I would get.
So, like so far, have you had any hiccups or like some
The
issues
only
regarding
issues
that?
that I've been getting is when we're onboarding people. That's
Yeah,
what I was saying. I support the recruiters a lot. So,
yeah,
but as far as like retaining people's information, no, there's less mistakes on that end because that information is what's given to us by the actual employee.
yeah,
So basically, by them submitting it, that's why I'm trying to fix or work with the recruiters to make sure that the employees are entering in the information, so that way
yeah,
there's no blame on our part.
yeah. Okay, okay, that makes sense now. Yeah, you mentioned that you do not really have that background in payroll, but you do collaborate with them, right? To
Correct.
provide.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like
So, what sort
anything
of
that I have to.
collaboration is that?
So basically, if there's anything like a proration or um, like a proration, when I mean like for when people start their benefits, so we
Yeah,
would prorate their benefits
yeah,
according to like when they actually started, or if
exactly.
there's any like child support notices, well, then I
Yeah.
would help out with that as well.
Okay. Okay. Other than that, do you have a basic idea of the entire payroll process? Not if not for this company, like in your past experiences as well.
Oh yeah,
So
yes,
okay, so you're well equipped with how the payroll process works and how it's disbursed and everything.
correct. Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right. And then you also manage complex inquiries by researching and gathering supportive information. So can you share the example of a case
Eli-
requiring yeah, can
Well,
you
when I for that, I would like I was
yeah,
saying like there's a lot of investigations going on.
yeah,
Um,
okay,
I mean, I can't really say that right now, but we would have to conduct an investigation on like certain situations or
Yeah,
even like sexual harassment cases,
yeah.
where we would see if there was like an employee that there's certain issues with, then we would get all the witnesses and stuff like that. And
Okay,
then we would do our investigation on that part, and then a lot of the times we would have to collaborate with a lawyer and get the
yeah.
lawyers involved as well. So, because we just
All
want to
right.
make sure that we do everything correctly.
Okay, so for such cases, for example, very sensitive cases, you do usually have a situation like he said, she said, right? And there, in
Correct.
most cases, it's very difficult to assess which party is has been wronged and which party is actually true. So, how do you ensure that the decision that you reach at is actually the right decision? Like
Um,
it's basically based
in
on
that case,
judgment, right? Yeah,
right. Basically, we have to do what's right for the other employees. If there's been
yeah,
multiple situations where people made a complaint because of a person, like for instance,
yeah,
like I was saying, the sexual harassment cases, then
yeah.
yeah, we would do those investigations and then we would have them write out a statement or they could do a recording. And we usually sit down with like a lawyer to make sure that that's all accurate, and
Okay.
legal. And then that's when we would go ahead to proceed to what the next steps may be.
Okay, okay, that makes sense.
But as far
And
as
you,
theft, and if we have like footage or something like that, then
yeah, yeah.
that's as far as the
Obviously, that's factual
investigation goes.
proof. Yeah, yeah. That sort of cements the entire case, right?
Yes.
Okay. You um, also mentioned that you interact with other service providers, benefits, retirement, and leaves. Service providers, meaning people within HR or outside parties.
Outside parties.
Okay. Like, can you name these parties that are handling the benefit, retirement, and leaves for your organization?
For these, no, we're still open because right now, like I said, with the whole
Yeah,
acquisition taking place, we're still trying to see what is going to be coming about.
yeah.
But as
Okay.
far as like benefits, right now we're open to like other organizations. Well, because we right now we go through in-house,
Okay.
so because we basically deal with almost all Southern Cal, a majority of Southern California,
In-house.
the healthcare system. So that part we're pretty much taken care of. But like as far as dental, like we go through like Delta Dental, and such things like that. Or depending on which they want, which programs that people are more interested in. But we oftentimes get people calling in,
Yeah.
and then just wanting to speak with us about their what they have to offer.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. We sort of went over the improvement questions listed here. You did mention a couple of processes that you help to improve, um, and some that you are planning on improving. So that's catered for. Do you have anything to mention for this current position that you currently hold, or should we move on to the next position?
Oh, we could go on to the next one.
Okay. So for the next one, then again, can you just like briefly describe what sort of role this was? What were you handling? What were your daily responsibilities?
Is this for Sprint, correct?
Yeah, first minute.
Okay, so for this one, I was originally onboarded as a coordinator. Um,
Okay.
in the beginning, there was 4 people, um,
Yeah.
and during my employment there, we
Yeah.
had 2 people leave, and they were both generalists.
Okay.
So when one of the generalists would leave, I ended up picking up their duties. So, and then so basically, by the time I left, there was only 2 people in human resources. There was the director, and there was just
Oh,
me. So I pretty much took on the generalist role. So my
yeah.
position was technically a generalist because I was doing all the generalist work, and then they did
Okay.
compensate me for that.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay. So I want to do is I'll mention it as a human resource generalist, And I'll also mention that you were directly reporting to the director, HR. Would that be okay with you?
Say it again. Sorry.
I said I'll be mentioning this role as human resources generalist. Is that okay
I
with you?
I would rather just leave it as just human resources, because like it was not. Like I said, it was they never gave me the title. They just basically called me as human resources. So, and I
Yeah,
was doing the role of everything else, and I would rather like tell the truth on it because they didn't really give me
yeah,
a title after everybody left. It was just more as I'm the human resource department.
yeah. Okay. Okay. So the issue that people generally face with their job titles is that when the ATS application tracking software is actually tracking the application, I'm sure you know how that goes. So they will search for relevant titles, right? And since you this is the role that you are basically applying for, and it's not really mentioned in any of the other job positions that you have had, this would actually help if it's mentioned here in a way, because like this would just pop out that you have had held this role for this such and such time period and you are qualified for this job. So that would increase your chances. Like my advice would be to go with this, because you can explain them to them in the interview that yeah, it wasn't a formal title, but that is essentially what you were doing, because there was no human resources generalist anyways, and you were reporting to the director. But
Oh,
obviously, at the end of the day, it's your call. That would be my advice. But obviously, whatever you say, we'll go with that. At the end of the day,
yeah.
if you're not
I would.
comfortable with this approach, we'll go with
I
whatever you're saying.
no, I agree with you, but I would just rather just
Yeah.
leave it as just human resources. To be honest with you.
Okay. Okay. So we'll go with human resources. So, but like, we can mention that you were directly reporting to the director
Yeah.
and filling in the place for two human resources generalists that had left the organization.
Okay.